Let's get started with the big news track showdown tonight. Joining us on this election debate special, two heavyweight voices from the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Congress. I want to introduce first one of the sharpest ministers in the Modi Sarkar, joining us live from Hazaribagh in Jharkhand, Jayant Sinha, squaring off against him. Chief National Spokesperson of the Congress Party, Randeep Surjewala. Question number one on the showdown tonight. Can the Congress's welfare agenda derail Prime Minister Modi's re-election plans? And I put that question first to Minister Jayant Sinha. The Congress says we'll come up with a separate Kisan budget. The Congress promising 72,000 rupees into the bank accounts of the poorest of the poor. The Congress says the BJP is a government and a party of the rich. Are you now concerned, just days ahead of the first phase of polls, that the Congress's welfare push could potentially derail Prime Minister Modi's re-election chances? Jayant Sinha goes first.
Rahul, good evening, and good evening to my good friend Randeep ji. And I want to say that the Congress policies as laid out in their manifesto are actually too little, too late. The reality is that we have already in our government implemented the most historic and sweeping changes to social security and to the safety net of this country. History will look back to what we have done, whether it is what we are doing through the direct benefit transfer for Narega, for what we're doing with gas cylinders, the Ujjwala Yojana, whether it is the 5 lakh historic Ayushman Bharat Yojana, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, the very, very extensive set of safety net programs that we've introduced already amount to over 1 lakh per family. This is the amount of money, over 5 lakh crores, that we are already spending on the safety net, on social security. And we've done it in a far better, far more effective manner than the way the Congress is laying out its own agenda as far as putting in place a social security framework is concerned. And we have done that in a very balanced, in a very practical and effective way, so that on the one hand we are providing the safety net, which all compassionate societies, all governments must do, and we are totally committed to eliminating poverty and creating opportunity. So we've done that on the one hand. And then on the other hand, the manner in which we've opened up the market economy, the manner in which we've created opportunity and opportunities for wealth creation has generated lots of jobs, lots of wealth, and lots of tax resources, lots of revenues for the government that in fact we can now put into the safety net. So what the Congress is thinking of doing now, Rahul, is too little too late. We have already implemented, as I said, the most far-reaching and sweeping changes to social security, to the safety net that any government has ever done in history, in human history, I would say. And at the same time, because we've done it in a very effective, practical, efficient manner, we have opened up the economy so that we can continue to ensure that the people who need it are getting the resources that they deserve, while at the same time people who are competing in an open market economy are getting the deregulation, they're getting the reforms, and they're getting the opportunities to compete with the world's best and win. That's the agenda we have already implemented. Now what the Congress is doing, as I said, is too little too late. It's unbalanced.
Too little too late. As far as the Congress is concerned, Jayant Sinha claims, Mr. Surjewala, that never before in human history has any one government in such a short span built the kind of social net that the Bharatiya Janata Party has over the last 5 years. Therefore, now you can promise the voter the moon, but it's too unbalanced and too late to generate any traction. Randeep Singh Surjewala will counter the minister.
Rahul, Jayant Bhai is a reasonable person, but I do not know why he and BJP are mocking the poor of this country. There are 3 challenges today before the nation. First is jobs. National Sample Survey Organization of the government reflects now 4 crore 70 lakh jobs have been lost. Instead of giving 2 crore jobs a year, we are seeing a situation where in 5 years, almost 5 years, 4 crore 70 lakh jobs are gone. Number 2, rural distress is at its peak, with farmer suicides peaking in BJP ruled states in particular. Third problem is that the poor of the country are not part of the mainstream India. So what has the Congress done? This is the manifesto I want to show on your screen. This manifesto has Nyay as its sutra, Nyay as the centerpiece. So first is the Nyuntam Aay Yojana, which we call Nyay. It seeks to put and alleviate 20% of the bottom 5 crore families out of the web of poverty once for all by putting into their account directly, putting into the women of the house's account 6,000 rupees per month or 72,000 rupees a year. Why is BJP mocking it? Number two, we also now are placing, for the first time for any political party, a separate budget for Kisan and Khet Mazdoor. 62 crore people are engaged in this. They must know. Farmer is simple. I'm a farmer myself. They don't understand many jargons and papers. So every government will have to tell, this is the money for the farmer and this is how it will be spent. So seed prices will go down, diesel prices will go down, pesticide prices will go down, and agriculture equipment prices will go down. That's our plan. And also, why send a farmer to jail for a loan of 1 lakh or 2 lakh rupees? We will decriminalize it. And thirdly, and the most importantly, the youth and jobs. Currently, we do see from government figures that there are about 24 lakh jobs that are currently lying vacant, and it actually may be more. I am told that this is not a realistic assessment by government figures. It may be actually 30 or 40 lakh jobs. All those will be filled within a year. Every village will have a Gram Seva Mitra, so 10 lakh more jobs will come. MSMEs and anybody wanting to start business will have no sanctions to take for 3 years. And when you pump in 1 lakh crore through 150 days of Manrega and about 3,50,000 crore through Nyuntam Aay Yojana Nyay, you will have kick-starting of economy, which is currently in dumps, because the finance minister and the prime minister honestly have killed India's economic growth.
Okay.
Once you have all this, then the jobs will come, because demand will come, production will come, and it will kick-start India's economy. That's our positive agenda. Why is Bharatiya Janata Party mocking the poor by opposing Nyay? Do they not want the poor of this country, the 20% poor family, the 5 crore families, 25 crore people, to be part of the narrative in this country, which is only 2% of GDP?
Jayant Sinha, will you concede, sir, that the idea that Rahul Gandhi can send directly into the bank accounts of the poorest of the poor 72,000 rupees every year is a powerful political idea? Economists can rue the fact that this will impact fiscal deficit, that this will be deleterious for the health of our country. As far as the poor man in Hazaribagh, in Dumka is concerned, getting this money helps. We saw in Chhattisgarh, the neighboring state where you are, the moment the Congress promised that they will increase MSP prices, farmers who are harvesting paddy crops stopped taking it to the mandi, saying, let the Congress come to power. Once the Congress comes to power, we'll sell it to the Congress government. You say that it's too little, too late, but in this digital India of which you've been a part, things can change. Given the connectivity now, are you concerned that moods can change? The manner in which people think can change, even if there are just 10 odd days to go for phase 1. Mr. Jayant Sinha.
Rahul, first of all, I want to reject what my good friend Randeep ji is saying about us mocking the poor. These are words he's throwing around to just inflame the discussion. Randeep ji, you know very well that in the last 5 years, we have served the poor day in and day out. And the results are there for everyone to see. And of course, you are a representative of the people, as am I. And I'm sure when you travel in your constituency, as I do in mine, you will find that even in the remotest of villages, every house today has a bank account, it has electricity, it has a toilet, it has gas cooking, it has Ayushman Bharat. We have transformed the face of rural as well as poor India. And that is why we are not mocking the poor. In fact, we are serving the poor very, very effectively. Now, coming to your question, Rahul ji, about direct benefit transfer, I'm very glad that the Congress has seen the light. Because of course it is our government that has implemented direct benefit transfer in an unprecedented manner. You know very well that it was the Congress government that attempted to do direct benefit transfer. They attempted Aadhaar and they failed quite utterly in that effort. On the other hand, we have implemented direct benefit transfer in such a way that we have been able to get rid of 8 crore ghost identities. We have saved 1 lakh crores. When I said earlier that we've put in place a safety net to be able to ensure that no poor person in India lacks for basic facilities, basic resources, we can afford that because we've done that through a system that's efficient, that's weeded out ghost identities, that saved 1 lakh crores, and that same 1 lakh crores is going directly into people's bank accounts to pay for their gas subsidy, to pay for their Narega payment. And I can tell you this because I have experienced it in the field myself. Before we did the Narega payment directly into people's bank accounts, it was taking them weeks of time to get their Narega payments. And in many cases, they had to pay 20, 30, 40% commission to get Narega. After we implemented direct benefit transfer, the Narega money is going directly into people's bank accounts and they are really benefiting from that. So we have gone through and implemented direct benefit transfer in an extraordinary manner, and it is this foundation. Rahul, this is a very important point for you and the viewers to understand, because we've laid in and put in place an efficient, technologically advanced system through Aadhaar, through direct benefit transfer, that it is possible for us to now eliminate poverty and the structural sources of poverty, which is what we're doing. For example, medical expenses. Because of Ayushman Bharat, direct cashless transfer through the direct benefit transfer mechanism, it is now possible to even not just eliminate poverty, but also the sources of poverty. So these are all things that we have already done, and we've done it in an unprecedented, massively scaled up manner. And that's why I'm saying again, the Congress is again bankrupt in terms of its ideas, in terms of its ability to implement these mechanisms. It's too little, too late, and we will see that in the election results as well.
The Congress had a system which was leaking in every direction. The BJP says, Mr. Surjewala, we've used the direct benefit transfer mechanism to ensure that money goes straight into the bank accounts of the poorest. This whole business of Rajiv Gandhi saying 85 paisa goes away out of every rupee to the corrupt, which continued for a long part, and even under the UPA too, pilferage and corruption was rampant. Now, benefits are transferred directly and in a far less corrupt fashion than at any time in the past. Mr. Surjewala.
Rahul, first of all, let's go back. The direct benefit transfer was started, Mr. Sinha I'm sure knows about it, you know about it because you did TV programs, in the year 2011-12 by the Congress party. We brought in the DBT. Please do not forget. We started what they call the Jan Dhan accounts. We called them the no-frills accounts. And 19 crore accounts were opened even before Modi ji came to power. The direct benefit transfer started, was conceived and implemented by the Congress party. The problem is that they mock everything that we started. Please remember, it is the same Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi who called Manrega a monumental failure of UPA on the floor of the parliament. Don't forget it. Please also remember when we in 2009 we said we will bring in Mahatma Gandhi Narega. Mr. Jaitley went to town questioning where is the money going to come from. When we decided to implement the loan waiver for the farmers, Mr. Jaitley, Ms. Sushma Swaraj, Mr. Modi went to town saying, oh, where is the money going to come from? When we implemented Right to Food Act, they said, oh, where is the money going to come from? Mr. Modi criticized publicly and mocked Aadhaar when we implemented Aadhaar. He refused to implement direct benefit transfer in Gujarat. So let's not have a perverted sense of history or a mistaken sense of history, if I may say. So direct benefit transfer, as also the no-frills accounts, which they call Jan Dhan by only renaming them, were started by us. Actually, Prime Minister Modi and BJP is guilty of mocking Manrega, rejecting Aadhaar, rejecting direct benefit transfer, as also mocking even the Right to Food Act as also farm loan waiver. So let's not continue to mock the poor or the intelligence of people of this country. Please have a good sense of history, for you are only 5-year-old, and by electrifying 18,000 villages out of 7 lakh villages, you are taking credit for electrifying 7 lakh villages. You were able to electrify only 18,000 villages because Congress had electrified everything else.
Okay, Jayant
And
Sinha,
did
the
you even
BJP
check
is asking
how
again and
many people
again,
have gone back
where
to
will the
take a
3
Ujjwala
lakh
connection? For there are no refills being taken.
3.6 lakh crore rupees going to come from? The Congress can say, we are the party that brought Manrega, we are the party that gave the original farm loan waiver. Where there is a will, we will find the way. The BJP never believed this was possible. Our welfare credentials are strong. Rahul Gandhi telling the poor, I will find the money, don't worry about it. Do you believe because they did Manrega, because they did farm loan waiver, their credibility on this issue is high and voters may start believing them? Mr. Sinha?
Voters don't believe anything that the Congress says because their credibility is zero. And sadly, I must say that Randeep ji's reading of history is also quite incredible, and we really can't believe that. Every government builds on what governments did before them. I'll remind Randeep ji that as far as Aadhaar is concerned, as far as direct benefit transfer is concerned, work on that had already started in Atal ji's government. And in fact, it was just taken forward by the UPA. And of course, the UPA had a full 10 years, Rahul. They had a full 10 years to try and implement it, and they did not implement it. It didn't happen. There was no direct benefit transfer happening during the time of the UPA. It's when we came and we rightly criticized it because it was not implementable the way that they were thinking about it. And they didn't have a law in place for Aadhaar. How could they make direct benefit transfer on the basis of Aadhaar when they didn't even have a legal framework for it? So, you know, they have this habit of making big promises and not being able to implement it. The Food Security Act, which is costing us 1 lakh crore a year, Rahul, is something we are implementing, and we've come up with the mechanism, we've come up with the approaches to actually do it in an effective way. So the Congress has this habit of making tall promises which cannot be fulfilled, and we rightly were very concerned about how these promises could be fulfilled, many of which we've had to fulfill. And frankly, when the Congress has had a chance to do it, like with the loan waiver that they had promised in 2008 and which they then implemented in UPA 2, they had only one way, Rahul, and it's important again for your viewers to understand this. They had only one way to do it, and they did it by printing notes. They just went out and they just printed money, and by printing money they generated massive inflation in the economy because there was a lot of currency chasing fewer goods. Inflation went up to 10% during UPA 2. It stayed at that elevated level for many years, and in fact you can see this. This is a pattern that repeats itself in every Congress government, not just at the center but also in the state. They make these tall promises that are not implementable. They come out, they print currency, they run up debt, they impoverish the nation through inflation. They raise taxes. Now, this is another very important thing. We know that the promises that they've made in the manifesto will require us to massively increase spending. The thing that they're talking about, government jobs, where is the money for those government jobs going to come from, for God's sake? It's only going to come from printing money. Once they start printing money, once they start monetizing the debt of theirs, inflation is again going to go up to 8 or 10%. Your EMIs are going to go through the roof. Taxes are going to go through the roof. We brought down inflation. We brought down taxes. Today, people are not paying any tax up to 5 lakh rupees of income. When the Congress comes back, they'll once again be paying taxes at 2 lakhs or God knows what. And the tax rates will go up to 40 or 50%. They've already said, as far as GST is concerned, they're going to raise taxes across the board. So this is a government,
to which Randeep Surjewala needs to respond, because the Business Today team did a calculation which said if you add the 3.6 lakh crore rupees required for Nyay to the 2.33 lakh crore rupees required for the extra spending on education that Rahul Gandhi has promised, to the 3.23 lakh that Rahul Gandhi wants to spend extra on health, then there is the hiring of 22 lakh government employees. All of this aggregates to more than 10 lakh crore rupees. And I want to put this in context by saying that the current budget is 24.57 lakh crore, which means somehow magically you assume post the 23rd of May that you will find almost 33% of our budget. Where will this extra money come from? This is almost as if you are assuming that money will grow on trees, and then, you know, whether it is Mr. Chidambaram or Manmohan Singh or Raghuram Rajan or anybody else, they can go up that tree and somehow magically find 10 lakh crore rupees, Mr. Surjewala.
See, this is the naysayers argument, Rahul. And this is the approach we need to change. One, I'm happy that Jayant Sinha ji has admitted that they are not going to give any jobs. In fact, BJP is against even filling up the existing government jobs that exist for India's youth. It's an extremely serious point. Why should a minister in the government say that the sanctioned posts for which there is a requirement will not be filled so that government saves money? That is a classical Modi argument. And that's a classical anti-youth, anti-employment argument. Now coming back to what you were saying. Same thing was said when we brought out Mahatma Gandhi Narega. Oh, you will have to spend 40,000 crore rupees. Did somebody ask Prime Minister Modi, or did somebody ask Mr. Jaitley? They have raised public debt by 22 lakh crore in 5 years. Where has that money gone, if not on the welfare? We need to know, the nation needs to know, and we don't propose to raise this money through debt. Currently, India is in a deflation mode. Everything is slowing down. You ask any shopkeeper, any businessman, any small business, he will say his business is down by 50%. That is what Modi ji and BJP does, deflate the economy. What Congress does is we restore and revive the economy.
Mr. Surjewala,
Just
your best defense cannot be with respect that this is a naysayer's argument. If you are promising an extra expenditure of 10 lakh crore rupees, you have to somehow explain where this money is coming from. You can either increase taxes, which you say you won't do, or you can cut down on existing subsidies, which again you say you won't do.
Well, you have to,
without that, there is no 10 lakh crore rupees in the economy which you can find, and you can't just dismiss this question by saying it's a naysayer's argument.
Rahul, that's exactly what I think you need to listen and understand. At best, at the peak, when Nyay will be implemented, it is only 2% of GDP. It's 3,60,000 crore, I take it as that. India's economy is on a downturn. Why do you believe if the Congress party in power, it will remain on downturn? For we have failed economics of Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Jaitley. We will revive and kickstart the economy. Please understand what was the size of economy in 2004 when we took over the government from Vajpayee ji. And when we left the government, the size of economy alone had gone up by 400%. That was what UPA did. Why do you think in 5 years we will not take the economy to 400 lakh crore? That's our target. The day economy expands, money automatically comes in. So you can also do social welfare. And that is what our proposal is. And the moment you put this money into the economy, it's not going to remain in their bank accounts. People have demand. Somebody will buy shoes, somebody will buy clothes, somebody will buy a pen, somebody will buy a bag. It will raise demand for consumer goods, which will lead to production of goods, which will lead to more employment. We will not say we will not fill up jobs because, oh, we want to save government money and not give jobs to the youth.
Mr. Jayant Sinha,
is for raising debt and spending on Prime Minister. He can spend 6,000 crore on publicity, 2,000 crore on 89 foreign visits, but he doesn't have money for India's youth. We will create that money, we will expand the economy, we will ensure that the size of the economy goes up many, many times and the money will flow in. Have faith in us. Please give us one more chance like you gave twice earlier, and we will prove that we are right again.
Mr. Jayant Sinha, the Congress's explanation is that the BJP demonetized the economy, the Congress will remonetize the economy when 72,000 rupees starts reaching people's bank accounts. They will start spending, that will kick off a cycle of consumption, which will lead to a spiral effect on other sectors of the economy. It will lead to the economy bouncing back. You demonetize, they will remonetize, which is where they will find the extra money by somehow growing the economy. How do you counter that? Not from a macroeconomics perspective alone, but also from a political perspective. Jayant Sinha.
Rahul, there's a very big difference between Randeep ji and myself. Randeep ji is a lawyer. He plays with words and he goes round and round in circles with his words. I'm an engineer and I look at the numbers. And I must say that the Congress numbers simply don't add up. They simply don't add up. You can use whatever words you want, reflation, talking about revival, but those words don't add up because what you're doing is fiscally ruinous. Of course, we are creating jobs. We are creating lots and lots of good jobs, and we are creating them in the private sector and also in the government in important areas. For example, the Airports Authority of India, which is in the Ministry of Civil Aviation, is growing very rapidly. Railways is growing very rapidly. Our police forces are growing very rapidly. Lots and lots of government jobs are being created, but government is a small part of the economy. The private sector is the vast majority of the economy, and what we've done through ease of doing business, opening up the economy, attracting foreign direct investment, those are all ways in which the economy has grown without the government having to pay for it, because the government has limited resources. We simply, and this is where the words and the numbers are very different. In words, you can say anything about what you're going to do for the economy, but at the end of the day, the numbers have to add up, the resources have to be there. If the resources are not there, you're going to print money. There is no other way to do it. When you print money, then what you're going to do is you're going to drive up inflation, and just so that the Congress can try and win an election, you are going to impoverish the poor because inflation hurts them the most. Everybody who is getting an EMI payment that they have to make, they're going to have to make a bigger EMI payment because interest rates are going to go up. The currency is going to weaken, exchange rates, and that's where the first reaction we will see. Immediately the currency is going to weaken, and at the same time, any money you have in the bank account, anywhere where you have any asset, that asset is going to depreciate in value because inflation is going to go through the roof. Rahul, we have seen this movie not just once, but many, many times with the Congress. They come with these words, they come with their lawyers, they come with their armchair economists, and then they come up with these ruinous policies for India, and ultimately they're either voted out or we have to step in and fix the problems. So let's not get carried away with words. Let's look at the numbers. Let's be responsible people. We are senior political leaders of this country. We have a responsibility to the citizens of this country. We have a responsibility to the youth of the country that they can get good productive jobs, and they can get it by not printing money but becoming more productive and more competitive as an economy. That's what we have to remember. And if we are more productive as an economy, if we are more competitive globally, we will generate the resources so we can build an even better safety net. We have already built a safety net, Rahul, that's much, much better than anything the Congress is saying right now. Anything they're saying.
Okay,
we have already
Mr. Surjewala, quick counter before I go to part B of our showdown tonight. Jayant Sinha says, as an engineer, they have to look at numbers. Lawyers can make arguments laced with rhetoric. They don't need to find the money, but the budget needs to add up. You can't just promise 10 lakh crore rupees and say, don't worry about where this money is coming from, we'll find it from somewhere. That doesn't make sense. That's too superficial a response to too dramatic a claim.
Well, that's on one thing he is right. You have a history guy running the Reserve Bank of India, and you have a lawyer running the finance ministry. That's actually the country's problem. Both of them have utterly failed India. Let's look at the numbers. The numbers are export growth during UPA's 10 years was 393%. It is down to 26%. Let's look at the numbers. Household savings are at a 20-year low. Let's look at the numbers. GDP growth during UPA was an average of 8.2% as per old figures, which would be about 10% as per new figers. Even as per new figures, GDP latest numbers are 6.1%. Let's look at numbers. The core sector growth is down to about 2%. The latest numbers released by the government. Let's look at numbers. 4 crore 70 lakhs jobs are lost, and only pakoda and pan shops are the job solutions being offered by Prime Minister Modi. The Mudra loan that they speak about repeatedly creating jobs, the average loan is 23,000 rupees. You can't even open a pakoda and a pan shop. Economy is in doldrums. Economy is on a slide. Every business is failing. Make in India has failed. We are giving a new vision for the country, where we will not only be make in India, India will make for the world. And I think that's the way forward. So let's look at numbers. If we have to look at numbers. Public debt has increased. And what is the delivery? The delivery is zero. Except for Prime Minister Modi spending 6,000 crore on publicity and 2,000 crore on 89 foreign visits, there is nothing else to deliver.
So even if that is true, that adds up to only 8,000 crore rupees, the figure that you're talking about is in the range of 10 lakh crore rupees. That's a big gap there. Anyway, both of you have had your say on the economy. I want to come to question number 2. Question number 2
I also
is...
just add one line. There is 60 lakh crore of government expense.
Question number 2 on the election showdown tonight. Does the Congress...
if Randeep ji gets to add a last line, let me just add one line, which is our economy is the best performing large economy in the world. It's an economy that's performing better than it has ever performed before in its history. That's the truth. Those are the numbers.
Question number 2 on the showdown tonight. Does the Congress's promise of diluting AFSPA and doing away with sedition play into the BJP's hands? Randeep Surjewala, the Prime Minister and the Bharatiya Janata Party have taken a very strident, very aggressive position on the issue of national security. In the midst of all of this, you've gone and said, we'll dilute AFSPA, we will do away with sedition. The BJP is saying, and I want to show you just 2 reactions from the Prime Minister and from Amit Shah, that the Congress is a party of anti-nationals. They don't care about the army. They want to weaken the army. They want the stone pelters to win. They want the army to lose. Is that, at a time when national security is so important, going to push the Congress on the back foot? Listen first to what Amit Shah and the Prime Minister had to say on the campaign trail.
उनको लगता है ये सेना पराक्रम करती है और फायदा मोदी को मिल रहा है, इसलिए अब सेना पर ही परेशानी पैदा करने के रास्ते खोज रहे हैं। भाइयों बहनों, इस देश की सेना को परेशान करके हम देश का भला कर सकते हैं, हमारी सुरक्षा कर सकते हैं, हमारी जीवन आसान हो सकता है।
कांग्रेस ने अपना मैनिफेस्टो डिक्लेयर किया है। मैनिफेस्टो के अंदर उन्होंने कहा है कश्मीर से अब सपा को डाउनग्रेड करेंगे, उसको थोड़ा निर्बल करेंगे। मैं पूछना चाहता हूं कांग्रेस अध्यक्ष को, जो जवान देश की सीमा पर लड़ रहे हैं, सीमा सुरक्षा बल के जवान, सेना के जवान, इनको आप बल देना चाहते हो या उनका मनोबल गिराना चाहते हो?
Post Balakot, given the heightened focus on national security, has the Congress, Mr. Surjewala, scored a big self-goal by saying you will dilute AFSPA, by wanting to do away with sedition? You had 10 years of UPA when you could have diluted AFSPA if you really wanted. Omar Abdullah wanted it. Chidambaram was dithering at the time. You didn't push through. If you had the chance, you didn't do it. Now you've given the BJP a lollipop and they're hitting you really hard. Both the Prime Minister and Amit Shah saying you're weakening the hand of the security forces, you are strengthening the stone pelters. Mr. Surjewala.
Well, Rahul, the whole problem is that Mr. Modi and Amit Shahji's speech are very jarring and dated now. 2004, 2007, 2008, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14. You please replay the speeches. It is a fight against Pakistan, calling everybody anti-national. But let's understand it. Sedition is a colonial law. And that's why we thought it's largely being used against journalists like you or against everybody who has a different opinion than Mr. Modi. Because India has introduced 2 new legislations. Problem is Prime Minister Modi doesn't read anything. He just reads from that teleprompter that is put in front of him. I wish Mr. Jaitley, who is more busy writing blogs, had told him that there is something called the Defence of India Act and there is something called the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Everything that is written in sedition is taken care of in these two laws, not written by the British, but by the Indian Parliament. So there is really no effective need for the law of sedition to be applied against political opponents and journalists. These two laws take care of anybody saying anything which is inimical to the country. Coming back to the second thing, Supreme Court recently, who said we will dilute Armed Forces Special Powers Act? I'm reading to you what the manifesto said. And please understand, Justice Lokur of the Supreme Court recently gave a judgment that in case of sexual offences, in case of extreme torture or physical lifting and killing a person, the protection does not apply. We have written the same judgment of the Supreme Court here. Tell me, with Mr. Jayant Sinha say that sexual offences or sexual crimes or crimes of extreme torture and lifting, killing persons should be permitted in today's world? I don't think so. Anybody would subscribe to that, and that's what the Supreme Court said. So we are not diluting. We will continue to apply the law with full force, except in these three exceptions created by the Supreme Court recently. We have only reproduced the judgment of the Supreme Court. Nobody, no sane person will say, please condone sexual offences, rape in garb of Armed Forces Act. Nobody will say, please condone killing by physically lifting a person in garb of Armed Forces Special Powers Act. So these are the only exceptions that we have created. Other than that, Armed Forces Act, Special Powers Act will apply with full force, and we will stand with the army. And very shortly, I want to make a third point. It is Prime Minister Modi. Mr. Manmohan Singh never went to Pakistan. Modi ji went uninvited to Pakistan to have biryani and to celebrate and to cut cakes. And the entire country was insulted for army journals of Pakistan refused to salute our Prime Minister. It is Prime Minister Modi who invited the dreaded terrorist supporter ISI for investigating the Pathankot air base attack. Why? And Mr. Amit Shah expressed confidence in ISI. It is Prime Minister Modi who kept quiet when PDP BJP government thanked the separatists and Pakistan instead of thanking the Army Election Commission for a peaceful election. And it is Mr. Modi, PDP BJP government which made Asifa Andrabi, who holds public meetings in Pakistan with Masood Azhar, the terrorist, the poster girl in Jammu Kashmir for Beti Bachao. Actually, they are the ones who have driven the entire Jammu and Kashmir into a web of violence. And who is responsible for Pulwama attack? Was it not a national security and intelligence failure?
Okay.
And why was
so,
Prime
Mr.
Minister
Jayant Sinha,
in Corbett
the
National
Sedition
Park
Act,
filming pictures
the section 124A of the IPC
counted?
goes back to 1860. It's been struck down in country after country. This is a colonial law, and most right-thinking people will say that there is no place for a law like sedition in India, and therefore it should be done away with. Do you not concede that there is merit in what the Congress is trying to do? You were earlier saying that the Congress is using rhetoric. If you say, oh, the JNU walas are anti-national, that again is rhetoric, this time from your side. Sedition needs to go. The world over, that is where jurisprudence is going. Even on defamation, why should it be a criminal offense? Why should it not just be a civilian offense? These are progressive changes the Congress hopes to make in law. Why should your party object to it, sir?
Let me get to the substance of that matter, Rahul, in just a moment. But I'll make a stylistic point first. And I will implore my colleagues in the Congress and Randeep ji, who's a very thoughtful and very intelligent man, to please not reduce our political discourse to this kind of gutter rhetoric. For you to be personally attacking the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Finance Minister in this language and with these words, I think does not do you justice. doesn't do the Congress justice and doesn't do justice to India's democracy. I never use those words, and I would implore you, Randeep ji, and I would implore your colleagues not to get down to that gutter level rhetoric. Now let's get to the substance of these issues, because they're actually very important, and let's try and do it in a civilized, logical manner. The fact is, and this is really the challenge that we are confronting,
Can I
is
intervene
that
and only
the
say one
Congress
thing?
believes
Was
in a
50
soft
crore girlfriend
and sadly in a corrupt...
correct thing to say?
Please, go ahead. I'm sorry?
I said, can I just also implore you and ask you, was calling somebody's wife a 50 crore girlfriend by the Prime Minister Modi was all right? Was it not gutter level? Calling the entire media bazaru in Delhi election by the Prime Minister, was it not gutter level? Saying that if a woman stands with a bottle of achar, then it will sell better by the Prime Minister, was it very honorable for the women of this country? I think you should first look and introspect as to the kind
Randeep
of gutter
ji,
level language every BJP leader uses for Shri Rahul Gandhi and even Shrimati Sonia Gandhi before saying something.
All right. We can contest all of those statements that you made, Randeep ji. All I'm saying is, I have heard your language and your words on this program. That's what I've heard. That's the evidence in front of me, and that's what I'm dealing with right now. You can, of course, bring in other things and get into whataboutery. But I would suggest between the two of us, let's at least maintain the rhetoric at a sufficiently high quality. Now, let's get to the substance of the issue. The substance of the issue is that obviously laws that are outdated, laws that are obsolete, particularly in terms of modern legal jurisprudence, have to be updated. And in fact, it is our government that has taken a number of obsolete laws, antiquated laws, and taken them off the statute books. We have done that systematically. And of course, the Supreme Court also has been striking down many archaic laws and so on. And there is an ongoing process by which that is done. And I think that is in fact a good way and a good and a healthy way of doing that. The challenge, of course, that we're dealing with when we deal with the way the Congress approaches many of these issues is that they fundamentally are creating a soft and a corrupt state. Over and over again, we have seen that through their actions, through what they are suggesting, we end up creating a soft state, not a strong state. Given what our requirements are as a country, whether it is national security, whether it is dealing with domestic security threats, and I'd like to remind you, very important point, that as when the Congress was in power, the threat from left-wing extremism was at its peak. I come from Jharkhand. I can tell you there were many parts of my own constituency we could not travel to. We had armed bodyguards. We had to put in place very special security provisions to be able to travel to parts of our own districts and our own constituencies. With our government, with a strong state, a firm state, a determined state, whether it's national security or domestic security, we have addressed our external and internal enemies very effectively. And as far as left-wing extremism is concerned in Jharkhand, that has been brought down very dramatically and very significantly. We have taken the historic step of crossing the line of control and going after, in a preemptive way, terrorists that have been directly targeting us. All those are steps that our government has taken because we believe in a strong, determined, firm state. And we have seen, as far as the Congress is concerned, the track record is clear, it's indisputable, it is evident to the people of this country as well that they have created a soft, corrupt state that has hollowed out and weakened India. I'll close with one final example of what I mean by a soft state. Our army needed bulletproof jackets. For 10 years, this procurement went on about bulletproof jackets, and our army could not get bulletproof jackets. Can you believe that? And it is only when our government came in that we instantly pushed forward on that, got bulletproof jackets for our army, and made sure they were better protected. Rahul, you're the son of an army officer. Just think about it.
Final words, Mr. Surjewala. We're now running out of time. The BJP can legitimately claim that under Congress, India was a soft state. Now we are transitioning to hard power. We don't just take hits like we did under Manmohan Singh and Sushil Shinde. Now if the terrorists come punch us, we go deep inside Pakistan and we smoke these terrorists out. This is a new India, a more aggressive India. an India that takes the battle to the enemy, an India that doesn't just take punches, it hits back harder than it gets hit. Final words, Randeep Surjewala.
Well, let me begin by reminding you, Rahul, since we were speaking about defense forces, those bulletproof jackets never came. Mr. Jayant Sinha said that they instantly bought them. I think they are still embroiled whether to import them from with Chinese material or not, and 60 months of Mr. Modi have already passed. So when he takes credit, please also be reminded. Number two, the committee, parliamentary committee headed by one of the BJP members has submitted a report that the defense budget is lowest in India since the year 1962. The same committee also reported, I'm not saying, so it's parliamentary committee where the majority are BJP members headed by a BJP member. They also reported that 60% of the arms and ammunition is of vintage quality. They also said India cannot sustain more than a 7-day intense war. These are the three facts, if facts speak for themselves. In relation to J&K, 5,000 times is the number. Please remember again, 5,000 times Pakistan has attacked us on the line of control or on the international border. The number of Jawans who have sacrificed themselves is now touching 500 in 5 years. 283 civilians have died in J&K alone. This was not the figure during UPA.
Okay.
It was not even half. We had controlled terrorism and Pakistan stood isolated. Why violence has come back, a total cycle of violence came back on account of an opportunistic PDP-BJP alliance which pushed Jammu Kashmir into a cycle of violence. So when we speak about rhetoric, let's also remember facts. This is the first time that on 14th August, army men, and you showed it on your channel, were beaten at Jantar Mantar. 1 rank, 1 pension has become 1 rank, 5 pensions. Paramilitary personnel sacrificing their lives are not even given a job or compensation, which Congress has now promised in their manifesto. So these are the facts on defense, and please remember them carefully.
So you've heard from the Congress, you've heard from the Bharatiya Janata Party, two of the sharpest, most articulate voices on either sides of the political divide. And as always in India today, we don't take sides. We get you to hear both points of view and we leave it to the wisdom of our viewers to decide who you think carried the day, Jayant Sinha or Randeep Surjewala. But for lighting up the news track debate tonight with the power of your arguments and for having such a high quality, high caliber debate, which we don't often see on television nowadays, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Mr. Sinha had a long day in the campaign trail. I hope you had some fun. There's lots of dust in Hazaribagh where you come from. Randeep Surjewala also had a busy day with that manifesto coming out. So we really appreciate both these gentlemen joining us. You decide who you think won. You can message me, you can tweet to us, you can write to us on Facebook. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahul.
Randeep Surjewala, Jayant Sinha.
Thank you, Randeep.
Wish you all the best for the campaign. This is the second such big debate we've set up. We hope to have more over the next few days and weeks. This is India's election channel. This is where you hear the sharpest, brightest, most articulate voices. Our coverage continues on the other side.